Imagine stepping into a metropolis where the line between the present and the future is totally blurred. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into a place where sci-fi is just everyday reality, a city literally built to be a living, breathing experiment. Shenzhen, China. You know, visitors to this city often say that the future doesn't exist yet, but after just a few days here, they aren't so sure anymore. And honestly, it makes sense. You might walk in expecting just another sprawling, bustling concrete jungle, but within hours, something feels fundamentally different. You're not just looking at modern infrastructure, it's like you're looking at a society that has fast-forwarded a few decades past the rest of us. Let's talk scale for a second. 17 million. That's the population of Shenzhen today. But to really wrap your head around how wild that is, you have to realize that barely 45 years ago, this hyper-advanced megacity of 17 million people was practically a quiet fishing village. The sheer velocity of that kind of growth is almost impossible to comprehend. So how exactly did this place leapfrog so far ahead so fast? Well, it all kicked off in 1980 when Shenzhen became China's very first special economic zone. It was a massive experiment, but they had one incredible advantage. It was a total blank slate. Unlike places like London or New York, planners had zero legacy systems or century-old infrastructure to work around. They literally built a modern city from scratch. I mean, in 2004, they barely had a single metro line. Today, over 500 sleek, sci-fi-looking stations. And you know what the real fuel is for all this hypergrowth? Youth. The average age of a resident here is just 32 and a half. The city doesn't just give off a young vibe, it literally is young. Because it's such a massive magnet for fresh talent and innovators, the environment is intensely competitive. If you want to stand out among millions of driven young minds, you absolutely have to bring your A game. When you pack a city full of that kind of young, innovative talent, mind-blowing sci-fi tech just becomes totally mundane. Picture this. You're relaxing in a public park, you get a little hungry, so you just scan a QR code. You order some sushi or a milk tea right from your phone, and a few minutes later, a drone literally flies overhead and drops your lunch off at a designated kiosk right there in the park. People used to look up to the sky hoping for miracles. In Shenzhen, they look up to find their lunch. Now, think about your typical morning routine and imagine waking up to a robot dropping off breakfast right at your hotel room door. That drone delivery we just talked about is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's this invisible, seamless layer of automation powering everyday life here. You can hail a Pony AI fully driverless robo-taxi, sit back and relax. Literally no one is at the wheel. Physical wallets? Practically obsolete. Most payments happen on a phone or just through a palm scan and facial recognition. Even the free public parks have solar-powered sensors embedded in the paths to track your running speed and distance. What's absolutely wild is how all this futuristic tech completely transforms the physical, sensory experience of the city. Think about it. A megacity with 17 million people should be deafening, right? But Shenzhen is surprisingly quiet. The reason? The entire transit system runs on electricity. We're talking about 16,000 buses and 21,000 taxis, all 100% electric. It completely wipes out the roaring engines and thick exhaust fumes you normally expect in a massive urban center. Of course, to keep a fleet of that massive magnitude moving without a hitch, you need an absolute powerhouse of infrastructure. Shenzhen backs up this quiet revolution with over 1,000 ultra-fast charging stations and a staggering 410,000 charging piles spread all over the city. This isn't just a pilot program or an experiment anymore. It is the seamless, daily reality of how the city moves. And that heavy reliance on technology extends right into city management, too. Shenzhen operates a massive, highly integrated network of civilian cameras and police drones. It is an intense level of surveillance, for sure, but the practical trade-off that residents experience is a deeply controlled environment. Crime rates are exceptionally low, and even late at night, the streets feel incredibly safe. But to really understand how this city innovates at such breakneck speed, you have to look at its hardware heart, the Huaqingbei electronics market. Back in the early 2000s, this massive market was pretty notorious, mostly known for churning out fake goods. But today, that old reputation is totally gone. It has morphed into the ultimate paradise for engineers. It's floor after floor packed with microchips, wires, and sensors. It's not just a market, it's a city-sized rapid prototyping toolbox where makers actually go to build real things. And the secret weapon of that toolbox isn't just having all the parts, it's the speed. While engineers anywhere else in the world are stuck waiting weeks for components to ship, in Shenzhen, you can literally walk into Huaqing Bay with a rough sketch on a napkin in the morning and walk out with a fully functioning working gadget by dinner time. That kind of accessibility is just absolutely unmatched anywhere else on the planet. This high-speed ecosystem is exactly what has birthed some absolute titans of technology. Take TGI, for example. It was founded by a young engineering student right there in Shenzhen back in 2006. Fast forward to today, and they command roughly 70% of the entire global camera drone market. They operate out of this jaw-dropping, futuristic headquarters called Sky City, where they don't just design the drones, they actually test them right there on campus. Now, driving that level of global dominance requires a pretty intense, highly structured work culture, especially at tech giants like Tencent. The typical workday actually starts a bit later, usually around 10 a.m., but the structure is fascinating. Workers get a massive 2-hour rest break from noon to 2 p.m., plus a second full-hour break from 6 to 7, and then they usually wrap things up around 8. These companies build sprawling vertical campuses loaded with built-in gyms, climbing walls, and running tracks. The whole idea is to keep you comfortable on campus, maybe playing some basketball during your breaks, so the ideas are just constantly flowing. With all that intense tech and corporate grind, you'd probably expect Shenzhen to just be a relentless, soulless, concrete business jungle. But reality completely flips that expectation. The city is astonishingly green. Planners had the brilliant foresight to balance out those massive glass skyscrapers with an incredible number of vast, peaceful parks and waterfronts. You can literally sit in a gorgeous green space surrounded by trees, which, true to form, often have their own QR codes so you can scan and learn about them, all while looking up at the glass towers right behind you. But as you might guess, enjoying this seamless, green, hyper-advanced lifestyle does come with a pretty steep price tag. In the newer, deeply polished districts like Qianhai, or those sleek waterfront spaces like K11 eCoast, real estate is incredibly expensive. We're talking anywhere from $1.1 million to $1.7 million just to buy a 2-bedroom apartment. Renting, that'll set you back between $2,000 and $4,000 a month. The future, it turns out, is highly sought after. You know what makes Shenzhen truly captivating, though? It's the fact that it isn't completely polished everywhere. You can still find these beautiful imperfections that give the whole city a chance to breathe. Places like OCT Loft, where they took old 1980s industrial factories and repurposed them into this rough, creative art district. Or Nantou Ancient Town, which is this fragment of an old village that somehow survived the hypergrowth, give you narrow streets and a much slower pace. You'll even spot these slightly chaotic details, like delivery motorbikes casually riding up pedestrian stairways just to reach a bridge. It's a great reminder that human elements still absolutely thrive right alongside all the automation. And when the relentless tech grind finally gets to be a bit too much, residents have a really unique way of blowing off steam. Enter the 24-hour relaxation factory. For roughly $26, you can walk into these massive spa complexes like Queen Spa and get full access to jacuzzis, lounges, a cinema, and just endless fruit and drinks. It is the ultimate escape. Some people will literally skip getting a hotel and just sleep in the spa for the entire weekend. It's wild. You work like a robot all week and then completely disappear into a 24-hour fruit and jacuzzi coma for 2 days. Taking a step back, this entire journey from a quiet fishing village to a global powerhouse was not some lucky accident. It was entirely by design. The city was fundamentally built to experiment. It started with simple manufacturing, evolved into heavy industry, and is now pioneering AI, drones, and robotics. And man, did the experiment pay off. Shenzhen has led all mainland Chinese cities in exports for more than 30 consecutive years. So, as we step out of this hyper-fast reality and wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. When you look at the seamless drone deliveries, the sprawling electric vehicle fleets, the dizzying speed of hardware innovation, and those massive green parks sitting right next to vertical tech campuses, is this contrasting, hyper-advanced megacity the ultimate blueprint for our future? Think about it. Thanks for exploring with us today.